What's up, guys? BC Amplified coming at you with what could be the final video of the year here on this channel. I said that last week too after TLC, and I kept hitting you guys with impromptu videos. But what can I say, man? A lot of time on the road, and I wanted to talk some pro wrestling with you guys. But this pretty much looks like it wrapped up the year. AEW will be doing a tribute show to Brody Lee, Jon Huber this Wednesday night, but I'm not sure there's much that needs to be reviewed out of that. It's a tribute show. I think that needs to pretty much sit by itself. Nobody needs to overanalyze a tribute show to Jon Huber. That should be what AEW puts on. We should all take that in and pay homage and respect to just a great dude in real life and untapped potential in the pro wrestling world, Jon Huber. So there's not much that we really need to discuss after AEW goes off the air Wednesday night. I mean, it's a tribute show. And pretty much everybody in the community has said their piece on Brody. So now we just sit back and watch AEW do their thing. And, yeah, man, send Jon off the right way. So this is probably going to be, most likely anyway, the final video of 2020 on this channel. And I want to thank every single one of you guys who have been a part of it, either a few videos a week or a month, or every single video through the year, and even years. If you're one of the longtime faithfuls, I thank you guys so much, man. What an up and down year for everybody, man. Not just in the pro wrestling world, but 2020 will forever be remembered, and probably not in the best of ways for most of us. But we banded together and we got through it, and hopefully this makes us better going forward. That's all I could say. Right now it's literally 3 a.m. in the morning. I have a flight at about 6:20, 6:25, one of those odd times. It's about a 6-hour flight. So for 6 hours I'll be in the air with airplane coffee. So feel for me, please. So I got to do this review at about 3 a.m. I'm currently having my first cup of coffee now. So that's probably why I'm not too amped right now. But at 3 a.m., I don't see myself getting too amped. I don't want to piss off all the other hotel guests that I'm currently staying at before I catch this flight. So anyway, that's my deal, guys. It is 3 a.m., but there's nothing I'd rather be doing at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday morning than talking pro wrestling with you guys. So let's talk about the final Raw of 2020, which kicked off with a little tribute to Jon Huber, Brody Lee, or as they said in parentheses, Luke Harper, obviously is what they're going to remember him as, and speak about when it comes to Jon Huber. It's going to be in terms of Luke Harper. They're not going to mention Brody Lee, obviously. That's another company. But cool that they at least did that. And, put any pettiness aside. Because there's been times where people have passed and they didn't even put up the graphic. Now, some people are probably perturbed that they didn't do more. I don't understand what people thought was going to happen. This is a guy who has not been with the company for over a year now. And when he did part ways, they did not see eye to eye. Brody was not happy, and he made that known. It's not that he was throwing the company under the bus, but he made it known that he was not happy. So they didn't see eye to eye. He got his release. And he hasn't been with the company for over a year. So I don't know if people thought that WWE was going to give him a 10-bell salute. Or did they think he was going to get a 5-minute emotional video package, a music video? Like Pat Patterson, who was Vince McMahon's right-hand man. So obviously he was going to get the whole enchilada, man. I don't know. I really don't know what people thought was going to happen. I mean, you were going to get the graphic at the beginning if WWE was going to put their pettiness aside, and they did. They put up the graphic, and Vince McMahon actually let a bunch of superstars go out there and pay their own tributes. If you guys caught what Alexa Bliss said, I'll let you guys find these little nuggets. Alexa Bliss did a little something. Drew McIntyre, and I bet you guys Alexa Bliss did it at the request of Bray Wyatt. But Drew McIntyre sent out a little tribute. Xavier Woods actually had a band that said Brody on his arm. Yeah, so there was a lot of, Tom Phillips a couple of times alluded to Big Brody. So, people got to go out there and pay tribute in their own way. You had the graphic. There was no way that you can just spotlight somebody from a rival company. And I know, guys, BC, you got to put the pettiness aside. Well, they did. They put the graphic up and they let everybody go out there and salute this guy. You just in business, you can't do that. That's AEW has to do that, guys. That's their guy, and that's what they're doing this Wednesday night with a tribute show. You can't expect WWE to throw out the bells and whistles. You can't expect WWE to give this guy more airtime than they did when he was with the company, because then people would look at you and say, dude, you're a douche. You're going to give this dude all the time now, but you couldn't give him the time of day when he was here with all that talent, and he was sitting at home because you had nothing for him. I think that would even turn people off even more. You're going to give him airtime now. No, Vince McMahon, Stephanie, Triple H, everybody put out a post on social. They put up a pretty cool thing on the network and here on this platform on the tube. They did a lot, man. As much as we come down hard on them. Of course it would have been cool to see a 10-bell salute. Of course it would have been cool to see a music package, no doubt. But then you have to do that for everybody. This is a guy who has not been with the company for over a year. They didn't see eye to eye, and he's getting the whole deal. He's getting the Pat Patterson deal, which was Vince McMahon's right-hand man, one of his best friends in real life. Brody's getting that too. The salute, the 10-bell salute, the music video package. No, because then you got to do it for everybody. If you've spent any time in WWE, you now get the package, the bell salute. And maybe that's how it should be. But you'd be doing that every fucking week at that point. Because wrestlers, unfortunately, they drop at an alarming rate. And usually pretty young, too. But you'd be having to do that. Where's the line? Everybody who has not been with the company now gets that type of airtime. I don't know, guys. There's no right or wrong. WWE at least acknowledged it. They let everybody go out there and pay their own respects in their own way, and I'm sure they'll do that Friday night. I'm sure you'll still start seeing Luke Harper packages on this platform and on the WWE Network. So they are paying tribute. So I don't know. Some people are just alarmingly up in arms, pissed off. And it's like, relax, what did you expect? The dude has not been with the company for the longest time. They weren't going to spend 15 minutes on this. It's unfortunate, Of course, in a perfect world, we would give Brody 15, 20 minutes of a tribute. Rival company or not. But that's just not what WWE was going to do. So, I don't know, man. They paid tribute. This is one of those situations where people were expecting more, and I just don't know how or why you would expect that. WWE does not give 10-bell salutes to everybody. WWE at times doesn't even show up a graphic. So even though they didn't see eye to eye on when he left WWE, they still did something. So this is one of those situations where I refuse to throw WWE under the bus. They paid respect. They're allowing their superstars to do such. That's all I'm going to say about it. I know this is going to be a hot topic for the next 48 hours. That is my statement on it. I'm cool with it. This now falls into the lap of AEW. It is now their responsibility to send John Huber, Brody Lee, to send him off in the best way possible. He is an AEW talent, not a WWE talent. Again, in a perfect world, we look at it as he's a pro wrestling talent. Forget what company he's in, and everybody should pay tribute. And that's what WWE did. Of course, we would like more. We always want more, right? More feeling good, more money, more houses, more cars, more Brody tribute. But this is now on AEW to go out there Wednesday and send Jon Huber off the right way. So, and again, much love, respect, and strength to Jon Huber's family, Amanda and their 2 kids. And it's just one of those things where it's just a rough week in pro wrestling, man, with this news. Way too young, way too out of the blue, and it just sucks. So at least everybody is putting ego aside and paying tribute. And it's cool that everybody in this community has showed that outpouring as well. Now, we got to do this, guys. We got to talk. We got to talk WWE Raw. As much as this may be painful, especially, how do you think I feel, man? It's 3 a.m. and we're going over this. The show starts with, again, it was the graphic of Jon Huber and Luke Harper. But then we went into Sheamus and Keith Lee, middle of the ring, bickering like 2 high schoolers over the school crush. In this case, the crush is Drew McIntyre's attention. This leads to a Lee and Sheamus match. I don't know who needs to see this, but we'll start the show this way. I'm old school. I would like it if you start a show off with a spark. Ignite something really cool at the top of the show, and then you keep going back to it during the show, and then at the very end you have a big, huge culminating moment, either a main event match or a segment that captivates us. And if you do it correctly, it should be a cliffhanger that takes us into next week and eventually the big pay-per-view that's upcoming. Shows just don't do that anymore. Now we start off with just some lame shit. And again, this was Keith Lee and Sheamus just bickering like a couple of high schoolers over their school crush. That's exactly how I would think of this. And it's like they're trying to get Drew McIntyre's attention or his friendship or his admiration, or to show the other that he's not really your friend. I mean, at least it's a story of sorts. I just don't know who's really caring about it. And again, this led to a Lee versus Sheamus match to start it off. Big Keith Lee ends up defeating Sheamus middle of the ring via a spirit bomb. And with that W, Lee will now go on to face Drew McIntyre next week on Raw for the championship. And this is a Raw that is headlined by The Legends are returning. That's what they're revolving Monday Night Raw next week around. All of the legends are coming back. And it's going to be headlined by a Drew McIntyre versus Keith Lee matchup. So this is big for Keith Lee. Keith Lee gets a big win last night. Whether we care about it or not, it is Sheamus, a former world champion. This is a dude who eventually will be taking on McIntyre for that strap. And Sheamus was defeated middle of the ring with Keith Lee's finisher, mind you, something that you don't see too often anymore in pro wrestling. Wrestlers using their finishers. Usually these days it's a fruit roll-up. And I don't even know what half the roster's finishers are even anymore. I don't. If you give me half the roster, I probably could not tell you their finisher because we don't see them anymore. So it was cool to see this by a spirit bomb. And now Lee gets a big match with McIntyre for the title next week. I do not expect him to win this championship. In fact, I think Miz is most likely going to cash in somehow. So Lee doesn't have to eat the L, and McIntyre doesn't have to eat the L. I bet you Miz is going to somehow fail at another briefcase cash in. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, if you didn't see Raw and you're thinking, well, BC, didn't he already cash in at TLC? Wait till I get to the third hour, because we're going to talk about The Miz getting that briefcase back and how frustrating that is to the Ant-Man, because it's utter stupidity. But I see maybe this turning into a triple threat somehow. This way Lee and McIntyre doesn't have to take an L. But either way, this is still it's a couple of big moments for Keith Lee that we've all been waiting for. We've been waiting for WWE to start pushing this man. He's got all the tools. You just got to let him utilize them tools. And I'm sure, if you're just a WWE hater, if you just hate everything WWE does, but you continue to watch because you need something to hate, then you're going to find fault with Keith Lee, even beating Sheamus last night, getting a championship main event match next week. You will find reasons to not like this, I'm sure. Because that's what we do these days. We just try to find the negative out of everything, even when something we've been asking for a long time finally happens. So I'm sure the WWE haters out there will not like Keith Lee defeating Sheamus, will not like him going on to a main event Raw match next week. And to those people, I have no time for them. I'm not even going to respond to that utter stupidity. Keith Lee won a big match. Keith Lee's going to main event Raw next week, and that's huge for Keith Lee. For once, can we all just be happy for somebody like Keith Lee? Thank you, that'd be fucking awesome. Next up, Grand Metalik defeats The Miz via a sunset flip fruit roll-up. I was just talking about the almighty fruit roll-up, wasn't I? Well, this was a victory off of the fruit roll-up. Miz gets defeated. Metalik gets the victory. So much I could say about this, but I think it'd be best if I said nothing more at all. Because it's Metalik versus Miz. It's a sunset flip fruit roll-up. Who really cares about any of this? You want to fill up your TV time? I got 101 other ways you could have possibly done such. But it wouldn't be the last time you saw The Miz, I assure you, and again, we'll get to that when we cover the third hour. Then we go to a rematch from the December 14th Raw between Dana Brooke and Shayna Baszler. Now, unrealistically, Dana has defeated Mia Yim, or Resignation, Reincarnation, whatever the hell they're calling Mia Yim these days, but Brooke has defeated Yim twice, and defeated Baszler all within the last month. I don't even mind Brooke, but Baszler should not be losing, period, let alone to Dana flippin' Brooke. Unacceptable. Thankfully, the same mistake was not repeated again last night as Baszler defeated Brooke via the clutch submission. Now, to show that there's no shade being thrown Brooke's way, that was the best I've ever seen Dana in terms of confidence, in terms of going for it, and in terms of trusting herself. Keep it up, Dana, because I love improvement. And if you're going to show that you are trying, if you're going to keep improving and not regressing, then I'm going to give you praise. But no, Mia Yim should not be losing to Dana Brooke because Mia Yim just got to the roster and Dana defeats her twice. Shayna Baszler should be one of the most badass females on that roster, but Dana Brooke is over here beating her? Unacceptable is the word that comes to mind, but Dana had a good in-ring performance last night, and the right winner finally won the match. Shayna Baszler needs to start holding her hand up high at the end of these matches from now on. We need to build Shayna Baszler back up. This tag team championship is obviously just to have something for Nia Jax. It's all about Nia Jax with these tag titles. Vince doesn't give a shit about Shayna. It's about Nia, protecting Nia. In fact, they don't even have the titles anymore. What am I talking about? They're now with Asuka and Charlotte. And trust me, that is only to put the spotlight on Vince's golden child, Charlotte. So you have Vince's golden rock's cousin, Nia, and you have Vince's golden child, Charlotte. Those are the two that he is going to protect more than anything always. In fact, it's pretty funny because coming up, Charlotte and Nia actually had a match. It's probably everything Vince ever wanted and more. But this whole tag team with Nia and Shayna, don't get it twisted. It's only to have something for Nia. It has nothing to do with Shayna. And on the flip side, with the new tag champions, Asuka and Charlotte, it's all for Charlotte. It's for Charlotte to get a rub from Asuka because Vince knows everybody respects Asuka. So if you put Charlotte with her, we'll start cheering for Charlotte more. But it's not going to work. How do I know this? Because we've already tested this theory time and time and time again before in the past. And I'm telling you, it always leads to Charlotte Flair turning heel because her face runs fall flat. It's frustrating to see good talent have to be tied up with somebody else for their pushes. Pushes that have time and time again failed because they just don't connect with the audience. So in the process, people like Shayna Baszler have to be tied down. It's time for her to step away from this stupid tag team with Nia and start picking up W's. So even though it was against Dana Brooke, man, and even though Dana had a good performance last night, man, I'm not going to dog it out. It was actually good. She's improving. Shayna Baszler had to get this W, and she needs to get a lot more. Hour number 2 begins with Alexa Bliss in the Alexa's Playground segment. Randy Orton was supposed to be the guest, but he doesn't show up. No, instead he shows up at the Firefly Funhouse that is currently vacant due to Bray Wyatt's absence. And Randy Orton just starts destroying Bray's crib. And he even rips the head off of Ramblin' Rabbit. Now, that's where I kind of got a little emotional because I kind of like the little dude. But Ramblin' lost another life last night thanks to Randy Orton. And at that point, Alexa had enough because she feels some type of way about Ramblin' Rabbit as well. So Alexa had enough and actually challenges Orton in the middle of the ring for later in the night. So I thought that was kind of intriguing. And you guys know I love everything Bray Wyatt does anyway. Everything Bray does just turns to gold. He's a genius. And even though we are in a wrestling world and a wrestling community where people like to try to sound smart and say the words, Bray Wyatt is buried. A guy who's won 26 out of his last 29 matches. A guy who just main evented the last pay-per-view. A guy who's in a huge storyline where he was just burned in the middle of the ring. A guy who's literally the brightest part of a 3-hour boring show every Monday night. But he's the brightest part of it. He's the most intriguing. Yeah, that guy's buried. I tell you, man. Wrestling fans trying to sound smart is some of the most cringiest things I've ever encountered. But there's those people out there, man. Again, when something is successful like Bray Wyatt, if they're a true WWE hater, they're gonna find reasons to hate this guy, even though he's fucking epic. And they'll cling on to Goldberg beating him in a few minutes. And as pissed off as the Ant-Man was, you go back to that review, you guys remember how heated I was. And with the Seth Rollins victory over The Fiend at Hell in a Cell, of course we were pissed off. But to say this guy's buried and it's ruined for you now and the character will never come back for you, I mean, to be that traumatized over pro wrestling is that's pretty laughable, but it's also sad. That people cannot get over these losses. I used to see The Undertaker literally get buried alive. The matches were actually called Buried Alive, guys. And I would watch The Undertaker get buried. I would watch The Undertaker get put in his own caskets. And, back in the day, I could just imagine what the interweb community would start saying. Undertaker's buried, man. He's buried, literally and figuratively. This just makes the character stronger. Bray is going to come back. The Fiend's going to come back even more badass and hopefully right the wrongs from Goldberg beating him in 2 minutes in the horrible Seth Rollins victory at the Hell in a Cell a couple years ago. Hopefully the booking does get better, but you have to separate bad booking from somebody being buried. Bray, you can't be buried. I try to teach pro wrestling fans this. I made a video yesterday about it. Thankfully, almost everybody agreed with the Ant-Man. Bray Wyatt is far from buried. But there's still some people that just don't understand what the word buried means in pro wrestling. They don't understand it. So they keep trying to bring up the Goldberg thing or the Seth Rollins, and I'm trying to tell them, no, that's bad booking. But when you win 26 out of your last 29 matches, that's not buried. When you just main event the last pay-per-view, when you've main evented plenty of pay-per-views in the past year, when you're literally the hottest character on a otherwise boring 3-hour show every Monday, that's not buried. You can't put him in a category of an Aleister Black or a Ricochet. You can't do it. But people still try to do it because they don't understand. They don't know what they're talking about. And it's laughable, but it's also sad to try to see wrestling fans act smart. It's a sad thing to see because you try to help them be smarter. Not liking Bray Wyatt, that's an opinion, right? That's fine. If you just don't like Bray Wyatt, that's an opinion. To say Bray Wyatt is buried, that's no longer opinion. Now you're just stating a lie. That's a falsity. Because we have factual evidence that shows that Bray is not buried. The Fiend is not buried. But people, for some reason, can't separate the fact of not liking Bray or thinking for themselves Bray doesn't do it for them anymore. Maybe because of they're so traumatized over past booking that Bray no longer feels special, or Bray's momentum has been lost, or whatever personal feelings they feel about Bray Wyatt. They somehow cross the line into thinking he's buried because they don't like Bray Wyatt or they're not feeling a certain way, when the majority is saying different. We are clearly seeing that the ratings for Bray Wyatt are always some of the most peaked of the night. And these are pretty poor ratings on Mondays usually. So to say that somebody is peaking your hours, that's saying something. That shows you that someone's not buried. When you see the merchandise sales, when you see the response this guy gets from the majority, then how you feel about someone does not trump the fact that he's not buried. He's just not, and your feelings does not trump the majority. So, it's one of those things where you hope that one day people will wake up and realize that there's a difference between bad booking and buried. Everybody that is bad booked isn't necessarily buried. Again, you can preach this till you're blue in the face. It wouldn't matter. You're still going to have those fucking numbnuts out there. Obviously, I still think he's buried. He just doesn't do it for me. It's what's going to happen, man. You got a guy who's literally defeated top stars within the last year. Top stars. Daniel Bryan, 3 times. This is a guy who might be going for the championship at WrestleMania next year. Bray Wyatt has already defeated him 3 times last year. John Cena, even though it was the weirdest, I don't even know if you call it a match, but in the record books, he defeated John Cena at Mania. You're talking about Rey Mysterio, Seth Rollins. These are the names that the Fiend has defeated. Randy Orton. These are the names that he has defeated in the last calendar year. Top stars, main events. 26 out of his last 29 matches won. And you'll still get some delusional fuckwad saying the words, "He's buried." And again, I get a good laugh out of it, especially when you travel as much as I do and you're in a hotel room or you're in those car rides and you're coming across this stuff. Of course you get a good laugh, much needed laugh. but you also feel bad for them because I truly believe that they believe their own shit. You know, and then they go and tell their friends, or they go on the interweb, right? They're on their mom's couch and they got their little Cheetos next to them and their little soda pop, and they got their laptop on their little belly or big belly, and they're typing away. He's buried. Hey, did you see what I put over here? Guys, look what I put on my interweb machine, on my social. I put that Bray's buried. You see that? I determined this. I don't care that Mark Calloway sees great potential in him. I don't care about the merchandise sales and the main events and that he's winning more of his matches than he's losing. Guys, I have declared him buried because I don't necessarily care for him. Well, that's tough shit. Get on board or hit the fucking bricks. I don't know what to tell you other than the dude is far from buried. But you keep telling yourself that, and when you look in the mirror, you'll see a fool looking back at you. I know that may seem harsh, but hey, it's the end of the year, man. When you put up with a whole year worth of people trying to act smarter than they are, at some point you just say, dude, please, promptly shut the fuck up. Thanks. Means a lot. Sincerely, the Ant-Man. So anyway, that was a side rant, man, a little pickup from yesterday's vid, and I thank you guys, man. The response from that vid has been awesome, and to see the majority, almost all, I believe anyway, I don't think I saw too much at all people really denying the fact that Bray is just exceptional. Bray Wyatt is epic right now. He's a creative genius, and it's really cool to see the AMP unit really understand that. And that's why I say my unit, my group of wrestling fans, we are the smartest in the community because we're willing to put aside the bullshit. We don't just pick AEW or WWE. We don't ride the WWE cock, and we don't hang on the balls of AEW. We call everything down the middle. And on a show that is usually redundant, boring, and stale, it is great to see this storyline between Bray Wyatt, The Fiend, Alexa Bliss, and Randy Orton, which brings me back, before I started this whole side rant, back to the start of the second hour, which was Alexa Bliss challenging Randy Orton. And later in the night, in that main event segment, they would actually come face to face, man, and it would be fiery. We'll go over that in just a bit. Next up, we have an Elias versus AJ Styles matchup. This is one of those situations where nobody cares because they're both heels with no real beef. Supposedly, Elias was playing his music too loud backstage, and because of that, we now have a match between Styles and Elias. Okay, what the seriously? That's how we're setting up matches? A heel goes into another heel's locker room to tell him he's playing his music too loud. And then you wonder why I say sometimes it's like literally a 10-year-old is booking this shit. Little Timmy's back there. He's got his little crayons and notebook, and he's going to town with his booking. It was a decent match. I didn't think that it wouldn't be. We all know what AJ Styles can do, and even though Elias has untapped potential that we haven't even began to see yet in WWE, decent match or not, if we just don't care about it, it's not going to hit home like it should. Two heels is never going to hit home unless you tell a damn good story. You better give us a good storyline as to why we should care about two heels, because the casual fan especially wants to cheer for that face. Well, who are you giving them as a face? AJ Styles has been... Well, let's put it this way. AJ Styles has pretty much bashed the WWE audience for over a year now, which is what he should be doing in that heel role. And Elias, on the flip side, has been doing the same thing as a heel. So when you bash the audience and the other guy bashes the audience and then they're in the ring, again, especially the casuals, people are like, well, who am I? Who's the good guy here? You know, it just... I was gonna say it makes the atmosphere even more dry, but in 2020 with no crowd, does it even matter? Maybe I'm literally grasping at straws at this point, man. I don't know. Decent match, just didn't care. That's my analysis on this. If you guys loved it more than I did, that's good, honestly. I hope you did. I hope you were not sitting through this like a fucking zombie. And did I even say who won this? AJ hits Elias with a phenomenal forearm for the W. So in no way should AJ Styles be losing this match. It just sucks to see Elias lose yet again. This guy has become a glorified jobber. And I'm being generous by saying glorified. I'm not using the word buried because I'm not that thankfully, I'm not that guy. He's buried. I tell you this, though, man. He's a stone's throw away from being such, man. He really needs somebody to throw him a lifeline. And by somebody, I mean the old bastard in Stamford. Next up was Ricochet versus Mustafa Ali. That's right, I think I finally got it right. If you've been following the channel for a while now, for months I've been trying to find out how the hell or what Tom Phillips is calling this guy. Because I guess how Tom Phillips is saying his name, that's the real way to pronounce it, I guess. This is what I've been told. I couldn't get it right. So I think I finally got it. I think it's Mustafa. So basically, if you were to spell it like a cow, M-O-O, Mustafa. And if I say it too many times, I'm going to end up fucking up. You guys ever say a word a lot of times and then you start fucking that word up? That's what it's going to end up. So anyway, this is just a moment for me to tell all you guys that I'm proud of myself. I finally know how to say this guy's name correctly. Mustafa Ali. Anyway, moving on. I don't know. Can you tell this is the most entertaining part of reviewing this match? I have not seen Ricochet. In all honesty, though, I have not seen Ricochet look this phenomenal since his NXT days. He was fucking everyone in Retribution up, including some cray DDTs to Dijakovic and Madden. However, his effort was not rewarded with a victory as ultimately Mustafa locked a late submission in for the W. Post-match, Ali wants Rico to join his group, but Rico says, "Oh, what the hell, no." And he ends up taking out Ali, and then he runs away before Retribution can do anything, which I don't know why he was running, because during the match, he took out everybody in Retribution. So why not do it again post-match? I mean, Retribution is just a bunch of clowns, and that's... It's sad and it's frustrating to say because I have so much respect for what Dijakovic did in NXT. I almost said ECW. What the heck am I thinking? Yeah, Dijakovic was in ECW all of a sudden. Man, that got me thinking. I miss ECW, man. And I'm talking the real ECW, not the resurrection or the lack thereof that WWE tried to do many moons ago. I'm talking ECW in those late 90s, dude. Oh, I miss that. If you're a younger fan, do yourself a favor. Watch some old school ECW and you'll get a better mindset of how the Ant-Man grew up. And probably why I'm so amplified today, man. It's because I watched ECW, Paul Heyman's ECW growing up. Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with this. Let's get back to this match. Ricochet versus Mustafa. Yeah, this is just the best I've seen Ricochet, but he eats another L here. And then he takes everybody out from Retribution. But my original point was Retribution is just a bunch of jokes, and it's sad and it's frustrating because Dijakovic had some really good matches in NXT, and we really saw the talent this guy possesses. And now he's just... Man, this group is so sad that I honestly feel like WWE doesn't even want to put them out there anymore. There's weeks where they're not even a part of the show or very minimal. You know, they're definitely an afterthought. They're stuck in the middle. And this was a group that was supposed to take over WWE. You guys remember that? And then they saw the response that it got. And it's almost like Vince doesn't want to admit that he's wrong. He's too stubborn. So he's not going to dismantle them. He's going to continue to parade them out there in some farce of a storyline that he thinks we're going to eventually care about. No, that's going to go over as well as us finally applauding Charlotte Flair in unison. It's never going to happen. That's not even shade. It's just she's been forced so much, and she's been a heel and a face so many times, and you've clung her to people like Asuka so many times that the agenda is far outweighing any natural feedback that we can give. I hope that makes sense. And this is one of those situations where we're just never going to warm up to Retribution. It's never going to happen. You want to talk buried, guys? You want to use that word? How about as a group? Not individually. Ali's going to be fine. And if they can just separate Dijakovic and even Madden, and definitely Mia Yim, individually, none of them are buried. But you want to use the word buried? I got one for you. Retribution as a group is buried. How's that? Let's end that once and for all. Moving on. We ended hour number 2. Actually, it was more like the beginning of hour 3, but the ball got put in motion. We started doing entrances, and then they went to a backstage segment, and by the time the match actually started, it was nearly the 3rd hour. But for all intents and purposes, we'll call this the end of hour 2. Ended with Vince McMahon's golden child, Charlotte Flair, versus Vince McMahon's Golden Rock's cousin, Nia Jax. This is the 2 females that Vince McMahon protects more than anybody else in that business. And sure enough, we got nothing special and nothing definitive in this match. And to be honest, before the match even started, I knew I was not expecting at all anything special. I was not expecting anything definitive. And sure enough, we didn't get anything definitive. We got nothing special. Charlotte wins via disqualification. This is something I just saw coming from a mile away. Baszler jumped in, and this was 15 minutes that was not needed in any way, shape, or form. This was, I honestly think this was Vince just wanting to see his 2 prized possessions. The Rock's cousin, big badass monster Nia, in there with Charlotte Flair. Nia, who's been tying down Shayna Baszler like an anchor, and Charlotte Flair, who now lately has been tying down Asuka like an anchor. And we're going to put Baszler on the outside as a cheerleader. We're going to put Asuka outside as a cheerleader. And we're going to watch Charlotte Flair and Nia Jax. This is exactly what we all wanted to see, said just about nobody ever. I don't even want to spend another minute on it, guys. I know you're probably thinking BC's going to blow this right up. Charlotte and Nia. BC's going to have a field day with this. But to be honest, I don't even, now it's past 3 a.m. in the morning, thankfully. Now the coffee's starting to kick in, but I don't want to end the year screaming about Charlotte and Nia Jax. It's so fucking bad, and I really hope in 2021 they just step aside for the real talent. Let Shayna Baszler shine and try to connect with the fucking audience. Let Bianca Belair shine and start to connect with the audience. Let Asuka be an actual champion. Because for the past few months, she has been nothing more than the older sister of Lana, basically. This has all been Lana's storyline with Nia for 2 straight months. And Asuka had to play the role of the sister who's just there to protect her and pat her on the head when times get rough. That's your champion. And Asuka has been in the shadow of Lana. Figure that shit out. And when Vince had enough of Lana, he threw her to the wayside, and he brings in his captain of the Blonde Brigade, Charlotte Flair. And now Asuka has to play the younger sister of Charlotte because it's clear Vince wants Charlotte to have all the spotlight now. Asuka's your champion, and she's in the shadow of all these other individuals. And on the flip side, your former tag team champions, Shayna Baszler, is still tied down by Nia Jax. Nia is being protected while Shayna Baszler is eating L's. Just last month, Shayna Baszler ate 2 L's to Dana Brooke. And then it's Baszler who's losing last Sunday at TLC to Charlotte Flair. But Nia Jax loses nothing. Vince hates to have Nia Jax lose anything. And last night was no different. A DQ because Shayna jumped in. I'm sick of seeing top talent being held down and talent that is not over with the crowd. Talent that is not connecting. Getting all of the opportunity. And I think what frustrates me the most is that it's not just that fact that it's talent that's not connecting, getting the opportunity, but as I just stated 10 times in the last 4 minutes, it's the fact that they're tying other top talent down that needs to be shining right now. Asuka needs to look and act like a fucking champion. Sasha Banks over on the SmackDown side of things. Let her shine. Not Charlotte, not Nia. It's time for champions to act and feel like champions again. Anyway, that's another side rant. Can you tell the coffee's starting to kick in? Oh, man. Hour number 3 brings us an 8-man schmaz fest. Hardy Bros, which features Jeff Hardy and Matt Riddle. That's right, I said Matt Riddle. And the New Day, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. They took on the Hurt Business. If you were to ask me at this point how much I'm missing Bray Wyatt, my answer would be more than you'll ever know. I watched this 8-man schmaz like a complete zombie. No emotion, no feeling, no care. Just 8 dudes in a circus sideshow. Hardy ends up tapping out to Lashley's Hurt Lock. The Business wins, and we can all move on from this agony. Backstage, Adam Pearce. Yes, that's the dude who called Drew McIntyre Drew McInfart. Yeah, he's that guy. And then Vince took him off the air for a few weeks as punishment. Anyway, Adam Pearce is backstage, and he gives the Money in the Bank briefcase back to The Miz. We all joke that this could happen after TLC went off the air, but come on, man. Really? Are we really doing this? Are we so tapped creatively that we're giving the briefcase back to The Miz when this makes zero fucking sense? They're trying to say that it was Morrison that cashed in. And again, we talked about this at the TLC review. How it was funny that they could do something like this. But we were keeping in the back of our dome piece, we were hoping that that was just a laugh, right? We're all having a laugh. It's not really going to happen. They wouldn't stoop that low. No, they stooped. And The Miz has the briefcase back. They're trying to say that Morrison cashed in, not The Miz. Well, then why did The Miz compete? Well, this is $1 billion company. You're telling me there's not officials back there that's watching what is happening? That's like if the LA Lakers were taking on the New York Knicks in the NBA Finals. And all of a sudden, BC Amplified runs out to the court at Madison Square Garden. That's right. BC is now on the court. I'm going to play for the Knicks. I'm there. I just took out fucking, let's pretend it's back in the day. And I took out Patrick Ewing. Patrick, thank you. Patrick Ewing was my boy back in the day. Him and John Starks, Allen Houston. Oh, man. Charles Oakley. I can't tell you. Anyway, I'm reminiscing about when the Knicks were actually good. But my point is, could you imagine if BC just ran out to the court and said, I'm in the game now. I'm here. And could you imagine if no NBA official, either the referees on the court or the suits and ties in the stands, came out and tried to get security to get me out of off the court? Could you imagine if BC ran out into the fucking Super Bowl between the Packers and the Patriots? I'm pretty sure somebody would tell me to get the fuck out of the ring. Get off the field, get off the court. They let this guy compete for the championship. And then 8 nights later, they said, oh, by the way, here's your championship. Even though you wrestled and you failed, we're going to give it right back to you. Well, what the fuck would happen if he won the match? What if Miz won the match? Would 8 nights later, somebody finally wake up in Stamford, Connecticut and go, wait, he shouldn't have the title? Guys, this may sound like I'm overanalyzing it. I'm actually not. I'm actually being cool, calm, and collected in today's review. Because it is so early, because it is my first coffee, and because it is the end of the year, and I just want to talk to you guys as if we were at the bar having some beers. But, so I'm not overanalyzing. This is just the bare minimum of just asking for some common sense and logic. This is dumb, guys. Even for a casual 12-year-old that just stumbles upon the product. This is dumb. There is no relevance. There is no common sense. There is no logic in this decision. This is something that we all laughed about when we thought about it after TLC went off the air. It's something we never, ever thought they would do. Even this company, who's done some really bad shit, stupid shit, not even this company would give the briefcase back to The Miz, right? I can't even, guys. You know, it's the same thing with Charlotte and Nia middle of the ring together. And Vince turning Charlotte fucking back again as a face. She was just a heel before she left. She's been a heel and a face 25 times. And they keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result. They keep making these stupid decisions and expecting a different result. I can't fathom where this leads to. Other than maybe he loses it immediately this upcoming Monday. So that Drew McIntyre and Keith Lee, neither of them can eat an L because neither of them should be losing. So maybe this is just a quick little way to get Miz in there, eat the L, and everybody goes home happy. Except for the fucking audience, of course, who has to put up with this bullshit. But anyway, that's a true story. If you did not catch Raw, The Miz has the briefcase once again, and all is stupid in the world again. Alexa and Randy Orton, they were in the main event spot last night. Finally, something, the only thing that I'm invested in. Alexa has been, can I use the word firing on all cylinders? And last night was no different. She douses herself in gasoline, which was clearly water, but let's stick to the damn story. So we'll call it gasoline. And she tells Orton to light the match. And I quote, Alexa tells Orton, do to her what he did to him. Orton is reluctant, so Bliss says, I knew it. You're just a little biatch. Only she said bitch, but, you know, I like to put some emphasis on it. She actually said, I knew it, you're just a little bitch. I mean, come on, bro. And the line delivery, the look in her face, the mannerisms, the way she's now confident more than ever before. Alexa Bliss is crushing it lately. And last night, she crushed it again. Cracked that son of a bitch straight out of the ballpark, Grand Slam style. I am so proud of Alexa Bliss. You guys know this is a pro Sasha Banks channel. We've been harsh on Alexa in the past, but I've always wanted the best for her, and I always knew there was untapped potential there. Once Vince stops forcing her, once she stops forcing herself in a character that's just not her, once she finds a character that she can really jump into, she can be something special in this company and in this business. Well, ding dong, hello. If I can tap into the inner Bailey, we have found that in Alexa. Alexa has found that in herself, and it's so great to see her putting in this work. Orton says, you think I won't do it? Is that what you think, Alexa? You think I won't do it? The lights go out, or he lights a match. The lights go out, and we just see Orton staring into the camera as if he's staring at Alexa, and the match is dwindling down to Orton's fingertips. So just like at TLC, it's the moment of do I do it or do I not for Orton. And even though it's already dark and we just see the lighted match illuminating Orton's face, that is how we go off the air in pitch black. The match has reached Orton's fingertips. He's about to throw it. The commentators are begging, pleading for Orton not to do it, and we go off the air. Now, even though if you're listening to BC's words, it sounds really awesome because of how I'm saying it, and it was a cool visual too, by the way, that's how it ended. And that I don't care for. The actual finish of this cliffhanger should have and could have been better. It's almost like they had some real creativity finally. Everybody was firing on all cylinders. It was a really good segment, and then it just stopped. It was like everybody lost their creativity. Everybody's dome piece started smoking in the boardroom meeting, at the creative meeting. And they were all doing really good. Everybody was bouncing ideas off of one another, and then everybody just started smoking, and that was it. They were all like, all right, I'm tapped. I have no more creativity. How about we just end it with the match in Orton's hand? And on paper, maybe it sounded good to them. But the delivery, and I'm not talking about Orton's delivery or Alexa's. They were on par, man. They took what was on paper and they brought it to life. But I would have liked something a little bit more at the actual finish of that segment. It should have and could have been a better cliffhanging moment. But the segment as a whole, that's my only gripe about that. I felt it went off the air in pretty lame fashion. But if that was just a moment in the segment, oh man, I loved it. The segment itself was just phenomenal. Alexa is crushing grand slams. Randy Orton, you could say this is as good as Orton has been since his Legend Killer days. He's been firing on all cylinders too. And we already know Bray has been. He's been epic. He's a genius. So I'm loving Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton, and Alexa Bliss more than anything in WWE right now. Up there with Roman Reigns and his character progression and his storyline with Jey Uso. And I hope that one day soon it can culminate with The Rock coming back, because Lord knows I do not want to see Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. There's no story there. Daniel Bryan, the only thing he hasn't done is won a Rumble. Okay, that's your story? Or years ago, when it was supposed to be Roman, it was Daniel Bryan and Roman's pissed off about it. I don't need to see a guy who's been in the mid-card for a full year, because that's what Daniel Bryan has been in, the mid-card, and now all of a sudden in 2021, he's going to win the Rumble, and it's going to be a resurrection of Daniel Bryan. Stop it. Stop it. There's better options out there. I don't need to see a mid-carder going for Roman Reigns, who's one of the top characters right now in WWE. I do not need to see that. Please don't do that. Anybody's better than Goldberg, though. Could you imagine if Goldberg came back at the Rumble and won it? Then we'd be begging for Daniel Bryan. But I definitely do not need to see Daniel. I don't want to at all, actually. I'm not even 5% on board with this. Daniel Bryan versus... Maybe if it was a few years ago. But if you're going to put D. Bryan in the mid-card for a whole year, and then at the Royal Rumble, we're finally going to start to see Daniel Bryan come to life when the audience is just disengaged. The reaction is nowhere near where it was years ago for Daniel Bryan, and you're going to build this up for 2 months. Stop it. Stop. But right up there with Roman Reigns, though, is Alexa, Randy, and Bray Wyatt. I mean, this is some of the best stuff. It's the only stuff that I'm intrigued with in this company. I mean that wholeheartedly. It's the only thing on Monday Night Raw that I am invested into. Bray Wyatt, Alexa, and Randy Orton. And they just crushed it last night. I wish the actual moment that took us off the air was better. But it wasn't. So we can gripe about it. We can complain and bitch about it. All we want. It's not going to change it. At least the segment was good, and at least these performances are good, and it's building this storyline for The Fiend's return, man, for Bray Wyatt's return. Oh, I'm so pumped for it, bro. I'm excited for that. Dude, you could just do so much with this character, and I love the fact that a lot of this is from Bray Wyatt's own dome piece. So I'm excited to see what Bray comes up with and what they do, man. We could see him as soon as next week. It's possible. But yeah, I'm pretty pumped to see the return of Bray, dude. And they're building this perfectly. And I saw one dipshitted comment. It was in one of those like comment boards on a news site. And I saw one idiot. He said something like, Bray is so buried, they need to put him with Alexa. They need Alexa to help give him a rub. And I was like, can somebody be that stupid? Do you honestly think that Bray needed Alexa, or do you think this is just enhancing what was already awesome in Bray? That's what this is. Alexa and Bray are awesome together. Do you honestly think one needs the other? Stop it. Unreal. But this was an actual quote I saw from one dipshit, and I really hope he's not an AMP unit member, because I do not raise my AMP unit members that way, damn it. We're smarter than that. But Yeah, I saw that. I was just like, yeah, that's what Bray did. He said, I need Alexa or I'm doomed. Oh, the stupidity, man. You can't fix stupidity. Anyway, that was Monday Night Raw, guys. I had to wait the whole 3 hours to get my Alexa Bray Randy storyline, but it was worth it. And we'll see where they go with it now. That was the final Raw of 2020. It's over, guys. Could you imagine if somebody said, we have to do 2020 all over again? Could you imagine if somebody said that and we had to do all of the Monday Night Raws in this year all over again? Oh, you'd find the nearest cement wall and dive bomb headfirst into it. Oh, dome piece first. But that's it. Thankfully, we can move on now, and 2021's on the horizon. I don't know if it's going to be better or not. We're hoping such. At least in the pro wrestling world, man. We're hoping that, I don't know, man. A part of me is glad that this was the last Raw of 2020. And for this channel, it's most likely the last video. Because again, guys, AEW is up next to bat on Wednesday, and they've already announced that they're going to do a tribute show to John Huber, Brody Lee, Luke Harper. And I think that's the way to go. That's what AEW has to do. It's their responsibility to spend the most time paying tribute to their guy. This was not a WWE employee. This is a AEW performer. And yeah, WWE, their wrestlers aren't employees anyway. Independent contractors. Vince doesn't want to shell out that kind of money. But this is AEW's time, and I don't think any of us need to review the show Thursday morning. There's nothing to review. This is us paying our respect to Brody, and that's that, man. I'm gonna let it sit. You know, we've already said our piece, and I'm gonna let AEW do their thing, and it doesn't need me playing Monday morning quarterback afterwards. This is our time to watch the show Wednesday night, and then all of us just shut our fucking mouths and have that moment for John Huber, man. I don't know. That's how I feel about it. So this is most likely the last vid, and the only reason I'm not saying for sure, last vid of the year, don't worry. And the only reason I'm not saying for sure is because at any time in the pro wrestling world, a big news story could develop, and the Ant-Man is always going to be there giving you guys my thoughts about it. But unless something drastically big happens, I'll talk to you guys next year. So, kick ass, man. Only a few days left in this motherfucker, and we can all move on finally. Keep kicking that ass. Much love and respect as always. Thank you for an amazing year on this channel, guys. It was trying. It was hard at times, no doubt, but it was all worth it. To all the newer subscribers that jumped on board this year, welcome. And to all my veteran subscribers, you guys are the absolute best. You know who you are. And we'll all do it again next year. Until then, keep hanging in there. Keep whooping that ass. Don't just survive, but thrive. Think, be, live, amplified. Check you later.